You're about to watch a Trains Newswire video. If you enjoy what you see, consider looking at some of our other full-length videos. Chicago, America's railroad capital. 20th Century Limited. And a new collection of top-quality documentaries from producer Rich Luckin. All of these and more are available on our website, kalmbachhobbystore.com. Good morning, Trains Nation. Today is Friday, July 28th, 2017, all day until midnight. We're so glad you could join us for another episode of Trains Newswire Roundup. Thank you for joining us. I'm Steve Sweeney.
Hi there, everyone. Jim Wrinn here. Steve and his crew have reported more than 40 stories so far this week, and boy, some of them are huge. You gotta go check it out.
My goodness.
Go check it out. Of course, the big one, I think, and I think you'll agree, brand new locomotive production to come to an end in Erie, Pennsylvania.
Yes.
It's been going on there for more than 100 years, and of course, no huge surprise, but still a shock to all of us who have, watched locomotive production and been to the plant. And now, a few years ago, they built a new facility in Fort Worth, Texas, and now they say they're going to shift production there. But overall, the thing that's driving it, of course, locomotive production is down domestically and worldwide, so there's just not that much going on. But Steve, you used to work there in Erie at the newspaper, and you had a front row seat.
I did. And we were there. I was in Erie, working in Erie, not for the newspaper, but for another company when they announced that Fort Worth was going to be built. And people said, "Oh my gosh, Erie's going to close." And then everyone was reassured, and we were reassured. No, it's just expansion capacity. It's just going to be fine. No
and at
worries.
the time, they needed it. Because
they did, because I think they had about 1,000 orders back in like 2009, 10, something like that. It was a big deal.
In those days, there was plenty of capacity, and Erie's shifted over to foreign orders.
Right, and so what they were doing in Erie is mostly building kits. And if you're not familiar with that, I mean, everyone knows the erecting floor, where you have, this, 1,000-foot space where you have lots and lots of locomotives lined up. What they were doing in Erie is they were basically building an entire locomotive and then putting it in 40 and 50-foot containers and sending it to port, where someone else in Kazakhstan or Iran or somewhere else can then take it out of the boxes and build it, just like you would Legos or something else, and you have like ready-to-go locomotive. So
it's a lot easier to ship one of those things in boxes than
it is. Yes,
all together.
So that's interesting. And what we reported this week was, it was a surprise to people in Erie, but not a huge surprise. There's been, layoffs happening from their 5,000 person peak. After the 500 or 600 people get laid off this time, there'll only be about 2,000 people there. Now, what we do find out from GE is that they insist that prototyping is still going to be there. Spare parts are going to be made in Erie or Lawrence Park, which is next door, and there's still going to be a big GE presence. Now, I have also talked to a few people on the ground in Erie who say there's a lot of government contracting that we're not allowed to know about. It doesn't really have anything to do with locomotives, but there's some other stuff there. They have a big secure facility. So even though final assembly will be moving to Fort Worth and the kit building, there'll still be a GE presence. Now the other question is, what are you going to do with all of those spaces, all of those tracks?
There's a lot of land there.
Don't you
think the test track would stick around if the prototypes are still being made there?
I would hope so. I would hope so. But part of what the test track was doing is not just testing the prototypes, but also field testing
the finished locomotives.
Yep. So if you have an electric locomotive that runs in catenary or in rare cases third rail, I don't even know if they have a third rail out there. But certainly with catenary, you go run it down the track, make sure it trips the signals appropriately, make sure that it just has some good run-in time. You can't do that in Fort Worth. A couple of guys had commented on our news stories this week that it's not like you can just turn the whole the BNSF subdivision next door into an electrified right-of-way. Well, I don't know. Maybe you could, maybe you couldn't. But there's still a whole bunch of infrastructure in Erie. And we're going to be following this story, as the last finished locomotives roll off the assembly line, as the last kits are boxed up. We're going to be following that every step of the way, as well as what happens in Fort Worth. If there are going to be 600 job losses in Erie, let's say, which is what the newspaper in Erie estimates, they're saying that maybe 200 new employees are going to come online in Fort Worth. So minus 600 here, plus 200 there. Well, what actual work is moving there, and what work is just going to be contracted out to someone else completely? It's interesting.
End of an era, or as you said, end of an Erie.
End of an Erie. Yeah,
Wow.
read my blog post online.
Wow.
Really
Crazy
stuff.
Yeah.
It's just you can't spell crazy.
Wow.
Can't spell crazy like this.
Couple other things to take note of. CSX getting into a little wrangle with STB now over some of the service complaints that they've gotten after they made a lot of shifts and changes, and kind of interesting there. Just see CSX says, well, maybe not as bad as everybody says it is, and I don't know. Anyway,
it's kind of funny. You know, Hunter Harrison was on his quarterly conference call with investors last week, and he said, "Oh, these service problems aren't much of anything." I mean, we've got the full quotes on Newswire from last week, and then the STB writes this letter. It's almost like being called to the principal's office. We're very concerned about, you know, your service performance and metrics, and, you know, we want to make sure that things are coming along, including a weekly conference call with Surface Transportation Board regulators.
kind of reminds me of 1999. You know, after the service meltdowns, after the Conrail split up, and you know, then the STB came in and said, "Hey, we need some more accountability here." And you know, like Steve said, it is interesting to see how that unfolds, and we're going to be watching that. Keep watching our coverage of CSX under Hunter Harrison. In that same vein, NS reported this week lowest ever operating ratio, 66.3, which is fantastic for any railroad. And they also said they were eating some of CSX's lunch.
That's right. They're taking on some traffic.
They say they're taking on traffic from CSX.
Well, you know, and then bouncing off of that, CN also came out this week and said in their second quarter earnings conference that they are doing best ever in revenue. So NS is doing really well. CN is doing really well. We heard CP is doing well. I'm sure the other railroads are doing quite well. I mean, freight traffic is down, but revenue is up. I mean, this is really an interesting time. I'm not sure what to make of it.
Everybody's trying to find ways to squeeze more out of less, and obviously they're trying to really be efficient. And yeah, it's interesting to watch those. So check out the NS story on Newswire. It is a good one. And the other story that caught my eye this week, of course, we're watching Ron Vittori's Senate confirmation hearing for the STB, or excuse me, for the FRA job, not STB. For FRA administrator, and you know, he looked like he had a good Q&A. You know, he's eminently qualified. He was at Conrail. He was at the Belt Railway of Chicago. So very qualified person to have in a spot, which is usually a political appointee.
Yeah. No, and
without a lot of experience.
A good thing, a rail executive. And I think what's interesting about Ron Vittori, maybe our viewers don't necessarily know this, but there are stories about Ron out there where different executives at CSX or Norfolk Southern would try and tell Conrail, because, you know, both actually jointly own Conrail. They'd try and tell Ron what to do, and he would push back and say, "No, this is Conrail. Here's how we're going to do it to be fair." And that's exactly the kind of personality you want at FRA.
Yeah, I think he'd make a fantastic FRA administrator. So good luck to Ron on that. And I'm all out of topics. How about you? You got anything else?
You know, I just wanted to mention that there's a story about an SD9 that got put up late yesterday. So the Fort Worth Railroad Historical Society.
Fort Wayne.
Fort Wayne. I'm sorry. Fort Wayne
I never
Railroad
think
Historical.
about Fort Worth.
I know. Sorry about that, guys. Sorry, very sorry, Kelly. You know, the guys that run the 765 are going to be putting together and in operating order an SD9 that used to belong to the Nickel Plate. It was donated by Norfolk Southern a few years ago, and the story's on Newswire. Got a great content.
Nice grant to move that project forward.
And congratulations to them. So we'll be watching that. And there's, again, a whole bunch of stories on Newswire this week. We got a little bit of video up there. Union Pacific actually got an award for one of their you know, don't try and beat a freight train videos, the safety videos.
Good deal.
So we've got that video linked on Newswire this week. Go look at it. It's kind of cool. And then I think it's going to be a fantastic weekend to go rail fanning.
It will.
At least in the Midwest.
Weather's looking good. Out east, not so good, but out this way, we're very good.
Yeah, sunny skies, warm weather. So for everyone at Trains Magazine, we're so glad you could join us. Have a safe weekend.
Take care, everyone.
There's an old saying that I abide by whenever I can. You don't criticize a man until you walk a mile in his shoes, because you are a mile away and you have his shoes.